Welcome back, everybody, to the Teen Titans retrospective. Did you know that Teen Titans actually had a crossover with Justice League Unlimited? Well, kind of. Let's get into it.
Don't touch that remote. I know it's heartbreaking to have your favorite shows preempted, but look what you're getting instead. Me! And a whole truckload of mindless violence and wanton property damage. Everything that makes TV great. So stay tuned. You won't believe your eyes.
This is Justice League Season 2, Episodes 22 and 23, Wild Cards. It's a two-part episode written by Stan Berkowitz and Dwayne McDuffie, Part 1 directed by Butch Lukic, and Part 2 directed by Dan Reba. The late, great Dwayne McDuffie worked on this episode. McDuffie was a genius writer. He created Static Shock. He worked on a bunch of cartoons. He worked on some of the later seasons of Ben 10, and he even wrote a couple Teen Titans episodes, which we haven't got to yet, but we will get into. And he worked on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Really great writer. Pretty much all the stuff he's worked on is very good quality. But this isn't a Teen Titans episode. What the hell am I talking about this for? Well, we'll get into it. Firstly, some quick backstory. Justice League and Justice League Unlimited were the kind of culmination of the DC animated universe, a series of interconnected shows that started with Batman the Animated Series, and then followed with Superman, Batman Beyond, Static Shock, couple other things, which all kind of culminated in Justice League, and then in the later seasons, Justice League Unlimited. The difference between Justice League and Unlimited is it's a Ben 10 alien force versus Ultimate Alien situation, where it's basically the same show, but the later seasons had a different subtitle. Pretty much all these shows are really fucking good. But I wanted to talk about this episode, Wild Cards, specifically because it has a direct connection to Teen Titans. This episode actually aired during the first season of Teen Titans, which is very interesting to me. I sort of think of the DC Animated Universe or DCAU stuff as being before Teen Titans, and then Teen Titans and stuff like the Batman and other things from the 2000s era as the sort of next wave of stuff of DC animated projects that we got after the DCAU, but actually Justice League ran well into the 2000s and had multiple seasons that were airing the same time as Teen Titans, which is kind of crazy for me to think that this one single continuity continued for over a decade and was well into stuff that was kind of replacing it. To me, this episode represents a thematic shift from the older DCAU characters into a newer, younger generation of characters with the Teen Titans. But let's get into the plot of this episode. Luckily, the first two seasons of Justice League have mostly self-contained episodes, so there's not really a whole lot of backstory you need to know going into this one. Basically, what's happening is Joker has taken over a TV station, or multiple TV stations, I guess, and is broadcasting his latest big crime thing that he's doing, which is that he's placed 25 bombs scattered around what appears to be Las Vegas, though I don't remember if they specifically call it that. And he's airing this whole thing on TV. He has a bunch of cameramen just walking around, filming everything, and the Justice League is trying to find all of these bombs and disarm them. Bombs are set to go off under a time limit, and we get a little countdown ticker in the bottom corner of the screen indicating how much time is left for these bombs to go off. This episode takes place in real time, and we actually see the bomb timer tick down from 22 minutes and something odd seconds to 0 in real time throughout the episode. For the first and only time ever in anything, there is a ticking bomb with a timer, and the timer actually counts down in real time with what's happening in the show, and the characters are trying to stop and disarm the bomb, and we see the timer the entire time, and it actually lines up with the timer of the bomb, and it actually counts down all the way to 0 in real time. This is literally never ever been done in a fucking movie or show before. If you've ever seen any movie ever, you know that they always go like, oh no, there's only 10 seconds left, and then like 3 minutes of the hero trying to disarm the bomb happens before the 10 seconds they just showed counts down to 0. And I get it. It's an editing trope, it's an editing trick. You're trying to raise the suspense of something, and so you're playing with how much time has passed. But in this episode, they do the thing. They do the thing that every other thing pretends to do. We actually have a timer, a time limit, and it's like long enough that the heroes could probably stop it, but it's short enough that like it's not a whole lot of time. Plus the concept of there's 25 different bombs, so that's enough that you can have multiple members of the Justice League working to stop these bombs and it still be a challenge to them, even with their many superpowers. Plus Joker has some other tricks up his sleeve, which that's a card joke. I just love how cool this concept is. And the other cool thing about it is that the episode is like from the perspective of the Joker's televised villainy. And so we get all these different shots that are in universe supposed to be real shots from real cameras that are, you know, filming the action of what's happening. Although we do get some shots that are like, that's a little convenient that there was a camera there. They do a pretty good job of like, every now and then we'll like show a cameraman, or we'll show that Harley Quinn is like in a helicopter with the camera and stuff like that. And there's a lot of shots that are framed like kind of wide, where like wider than they normally would be, and the camera has to like actually follow what's happening. And like they actually do a pretty good job of trying to make it look like there are real camera guys running around trying to film Justice League try to stop these bombs, which is more work than most things go through. It's like so many times in cartoons and stuff, people will be watching like security footage and it's just like clips from a previous episode. This show is like, no, we're gonna like make it look like there's actually someone behind the camera. We're not just gonna draw it like we normally do. There's a lot of thought put into an animated show that usually gets overlooked. I also just really love the concept of having the timer tick down in real time. It's mostly because we've never fucking seen that ever, but also because it just adds this level of tension to every moment where you know that they're constantly running out of time. We actually feel and see the physical ticking clock counting down in every scene. But of course that's not the only thing that Joker has planned, as the Justice League also have to contend with the Royal Flush Gang. This is a gang of criminals from the comics who have had several different iterations. They've showed up in other things too. I think they appeared on Arrow at one point, but they're like a playing card theme crime family. In this version, they're a team of superpowered teenagers who the Joker has become acquainted with somehow. And this is where we get our connection to Teen Titans. If you're paying attention, all these different characters may sound familiar, and that's because they're all voiced by the same actors that voice all the main Teen Titans. Let's go through them real quick. We got Scott Menville, who plays Robin in Titans. He's voicing King. Tara Strong, who plays Raven in Teen Titans. She's voicing Queen. Carrie Payton, or it might be Kari Payton, I'm not actually sure on that one, who voices Cyborg, of course. In Teen Titans, he's playing Ten. We have Greg Sipes, who plays Beast Boy in Teen Titans. He's voicing Jack. And finally, we have Hynden Walch, who plays Starfire. She's voicing Ace. And it goes a step further than that, too, on like a sort of meta level, as all the different members of the Royal Flush Gang are not only voiced by the Teen Titans cast, but are modeled to look like the actors, which is something you probably wouldn't know just as a casual fan watching this stuff, because even if you recognize their voices, you might not necessarily know what these actors look like because you've only heard their voice and stuff. But I'm a big nerd, so I look up all the kinds of behind the scenes shit, and I know what these actors look like, and so right away I'm like, holy shit, that's not just Scott Manville voicing this character, that's Scott Menville. And basically the origin behind the Royal Flush Gang in this show is that the government had this super secret program involving the superpowered teens that they had discovered and taken away from whatever families they may or may not have had, and have been like training them and trying to develop their powers and eventually use them as weapons. Eventually they're able to escape from that facility. They become acquainted with the Joker, and he's like, hey, you seem cool. You know, it'd be awesome if you had like a playing card gimmick. That would be fun. And they're like, sure. And they become a superpowered crime-found family that's working with the Joker to fight the Justice League. And it's mostly just to give the Justice League someone to fight in this episode, but it also has the added funness of being all played by the Teen Titans actors. So that's our like unofficial crossover thing in this episode, is that there's a group of teenage superpowered characters that exist in the Justice League universe, and they all just coincidentally happen to look exactly like all the actors that play the Teen Titans on the Teen Titans cartoon that's also airing at the same time as this show. And that's mostly this episode. It's just like a bunch of fun antics of the Justice League fighting this other superpowered team. We get a few like fun moments of hearing the Justice League and Teen Titans cast interact.
Out of my way! You don't know what you're doing!
Yeah, I do! I'm kicking Superman's butt!
They're showcasing all the different Justice League's many abilities in order to both fight this team of super villains and figure out how to disarm these bombs in time. All while being narrated by the wonderful Mark Hamill's Joker, the best Joker. And anytime we get more of him is a good old time. It's just a fun episode. But of course, if you're good at math, you'll notice that 22 minutes is not a whole lot of time for a 44-minute two-parter episode. And you'd be right. So early on in the second part of the episode, all the bombs have been disarmed and or taken out of the city and exploded. There's a bomb that goes off early and injures Green Lantern. Actually, his heart stops. I forgot. He actually dies, kind of. Hawkgirl runs in and is able to resuscitate him with her magic mace that has electricity abilities. He gets brought back to life, but he's in not good shape. All the bombs have been dealt with at this point, but there's still a lot of runtime in the episode, so what else happens? Turns out that Joker, seemingly always 2 steps ahead, has layers upon layers of his elaborate plan, which is that all of this bomb planting and Justice League Teen Titans crossing over fighting was all in service of driving up ratings. He was trying to make as an exciting and fun of a big old superhero we have to save the day plot as he could to get as many people watching as possible in order to subject them to Ace, the youngest of the Royal Flush Gang, who's kind of this like weird, distant, goth-looking chick, who you'd think would be played by Tara Strong, who plays this weird, distant goth chick in Teen Titans, but actually is played by Hayden Walsh, the Starfire actress, who does a really good job in this episode, and playing a very different character than Starfire, which I think is fun.
I know what it's like to frighten other people. That's why I'm not afraid of you.
Ace is this incredibly powerful psychic who has this ability to, when she looks you in the eye and you're looking back at her, she can cause like extreme madness, as Joker describes it. And he claims that because he's already crazy, it doesn't affect him, but he's lying. She just chooses not to affect him. So Joker's plan is to get as many people watching as possible so that Ace can then stare off everyone watching the exciting Justice League show and cause widespread madness across the world or whatever. Eventually, of course, Batman is able to track Harley Quinn back to Joker's hideout. Joker, of course, rewards Harley Quinn for leading Batman back to him by fucking smacking the shit out of her because Joker is a terrible person and Harley is in an abusive relationship. Want to make that clear. These two should not be romanticized in any context. Also, Justice League fucking pulls no punches. They are making a show about adults for adults that happens to appeal to children. I like this show. It's good. Anyways, Batman confronts the Joker, but gets subjected to Ace's crazy mind powers and is like freaking out. Joker starts beating him up. Batman is able to reach into Joker's pockets and pull out this collar device that I forgot to mention earlier, which was used by the government to like suppress and control these teens' powers. Ace realizes that Joker doesn't have her best interests at heart and then turns her powers against him, and Joker gets this like trippy madness sequence where he's just losing his goddamn mind. And it's dark and creepy and cool. The rest of the Royal Flush Gang, I think it's all gets defeated and captured by the Justice League, but I think Ace actually ends up getting away. She does eventually come back in a later episode of Justice League Unlimited, and has this really tragic and emotional moment with Batman, which I would love to talk about another time, but that's not a Teen Titans related episode, so maybe some other day, but look into it. It's fucking cool. Ace ends up being a really interesting and compelling character despite having only a couple appearances in this show. The episode ends with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl back at the Watchtower, the Justice League's satellite home base that they live at sometimes. Green Lantern is like under critical condition, but he's recovering. Hawkgirl's there looking after him, and they make out, and it's like pretty sexy. This is one of the like actual ongoing plot lines in this show, despite most of the episodes being fairly self-contained, is that Green Lantern and Hawkgirl have had a sort of will they won't they, and in this episode they will. They get together, which leads directly into the 3-part finale, star-crossed, of Justice League Season 2, which is really cool, but we're not going to talk about that, because this is a Teen Titans series of videos, so that's irrelevant. It's just, but also just, it's cool. Just take my word for it. Check it out if you want. Also, I just want to point out again how fucking sexy Hawkgirl and Green Lantern getting together is.
I see a man and a woman.
It's like super hot, and like, again, this is a show written by and for adults that happens to appeal to kids. This is probably the best version of John Stewart Green Lantern that we've ever gotten in anything. Probably the same can be said about Hawkgirl as well. And it's mostly just that they're both very well-written characters, and we like them. So that's this episode. Mostly it's just kind of a fun little romp with some really cool character moments towards the end. It's Justice League. It's a good show. Check it out if you want. I wanted to sort of do a little bit of an interlude between seasons of Teen Titans and touch on this episode, which is sort of an unofficial crossover, using the Teen Titans actors in a sort of meta context in Justice League, which to me feels sort of like a thematic bridging of the two different series between the old like DCAU stuff into the newer generation of Teen Titans. We even specifically have the Royal Flush Gang be a group of teenage characters, and while the Justice League is busy doing adult stuff for adults, Teen Titans is coming in and is sort of the new guard, the new generation of stories that, while appeal to both adults and kids, are for teenagers. Also, I thought it'd just be fun to talk about some tangentially related Teen Titans stuff, so that it can never be said that I didn't talk about something related to Teen Titans. Don't worry, we're covering everything. And when I said everything, I mean stuff where the actors from Teen Titans appear in a different show as like an Easter egg, although that show isn't directly connected to Teen Titans at all. Even that will be covered in the continuing saga of me talking about Teen Titans for a long time. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Next week we will be back with a full-on back into regular Teen Titans videos, starting with Season 2, Episode 1 of Season 2. This is the last interlude, I promise. I am working on a She-Hulk video. I just haven't found much time to work on it. So I don't know when it'll come out, but eventually. That's the only update I could give at this point. In the meantime, Teen Titans back in regular videos covering Season 2 starting next week. So subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, find out when I'm uploading the videos. We recently just passed 600 subscribers, which is really fucking awesome. Literally could not have done it without any of you, so thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, thank you for sticking around, and yeah, we got much more to go, so stay tuned. That's it. Thank you again. Hope you're having a good day. Bye.